What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to continue our series where I'm going to try to fix something, and I went ahead and bought us a new project. Now, I will be upfront and tell you that I know nothing about this project or anything about how to work on these projects. But in here lies our new project. The question is, how do I get it out? Let's work on that. So to start, I don't want to put this in the shop because it's going to tear up the floor, so we're going to put it out in a backyard. And there you have it, boys and girls. It is a 1996, I think, Polaris 680 sled, snowmobile, whatever you want to call it. I know nothing about these, like actually nothing. I do know maybe one thing, that they are like jet ski engines inside a snowmobile. That's about all I know about these things, and I don't even know anything about this vehicle here. So this was actually given to me for free. Actually, I paid $50 to be a nice guy. I didn't even want it. I just thought, you know what? I don't know anything about this, and this would be great for the channel. For one of our series, can I fix it? So that's what we're gonna do. One thing I didn't show you, when I built this trailer, I put a cool little winch in there from your local HFT. Worked fantastic. It was a really clean trailer until I got this thing, so thanks for that. Anyhow, we're gonna go ahead and start diagnosing this thing. I don't know what to look for, so I'm gonna flip open the hood and we'll take a look at it and see what's going on with it. All right, so it looks like the latches on the sides are already disconnected, so let's fold this beast open. Oh yeah, that's definitely a jet ski style engine. There, it looks like a Polaris triple. I don't know anything about this thing. I did notice when we were loading it that the brake doesn't work, and neither does the throttle at all. So that's all locked up. I don't know if the engine's locked up or not. You know what? It's got a pull start. Let's try it somewhere here. There it is. Nope. Engine seems pretty much locked up. Not a big deal. The former owner did tell me that it was running when it was put away, so he was a pretty honest guy, so I'm gonna assume that it was. We'll get the thing freed real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and spray some PB Blaster inside the cylinders, do a little bit of a leak down through the cylinders, see if they'll free up and keep yanking this thing. Let me try that. I'll be right back. Alright guys, so it's been 20 minutes. I sprayed some PB Blaster mixed with some Freol. Seems to be pretty good stuff inside there. We're gonna just keep cranking on this thing. It's starting to move. All right, so we're getting somewhere with it. It's tight, but the engine's not locked up. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a little easier than that, but we'll get through it. Not a big deal. I can see that the carbs were tampered with, so that tells me that they're probably nastied up. We'll have to get those things out. The brake, I was just on the computer before I got back here. The brake is actually right here. You can kind of see the disc right there. So I don't know what we have to do to maybe dislock this. It looks like those are maybe pads right there. We'll get those freed up so this thing can actually be moved without yanking it somewhere, and then we'll get the carbs off. So let's go ahead and do that. All right guys, so just before I went to pull out the carbs, I wanted to do a little bit more checking out to see what I could learn about this thing, and I realized that it's got almost like a pulley system, like a go-kart or something, and this obviously goes directly to the crank, you can tell, and I can actually spin that by hand. So I'm wondering if it's just our pull start's probably locked up a little bit, because I shouldn't, technically speaking, be able to do this by hand if the motor's locked up. So they're probably okay. Looking down in the cylinders, I couldn't really tell. I don't have a picoscope or whatever they're called out here right now. But I think the first thing we need to do, again, we need to split that brake over there and get this thing free to move. All right guys, so I didn't know if this was a single or a dual-sided piston caliper. Basically the way it works, if you don't know about brakes, you have a caliper, which is a big round thing that's pushed by hydraulic fluid that goes in and out and pushes against the pads to make them squeeze against the rotor. This particular caliper is a single from what I can tell, and it looks like the piston's coming from this back side. I looked up a picture on eBay of a Polaris Ultra, and that's what I could tell, it's a single. So what I need to try to do is I need to try to basically get in between these brake pads right here. If you can see that or not, I need to try to pry them open if I'm lucky. and it looks like it might have worked. Let's see. Or not. Okay, let's try the backside. I don't know, you know, it feels like it moves fairly loose. Like if you look at it here, it doesn't feel real tight. Maybe it's just the lever that's broke. Well, still hard to pull over nonetheless. So we won't concern ourselves with that right now. The fact is that we need to figure out the motor anyhow. So I need to figure out how to get to this carbs, and it looks like this whole air box right here has to come off. I'll probably start by taking these couple 10 mils here, a couple Phillips here, and see if we can get down to those carbs. All right, so I got those bolts up, but they really didn't want to come out, which doesn't make me look forward to this project at all. Was just laying in there? Of course, we normally would take these throttle cable off, but we can't because they're stuck to the carbs. So we need to kind of pry this thing out of here. Ooh. Now look what I found. That is a rat's nest. Now you wonder why. Let me bring you with me here. Look at that. Sheesh. And you wonder why this thing wouldn't turn over. That's the reason. Which you kind of expect sitting out on a farm. That's kind of what happens. But I guess I'm gonna have to go get some gloves on because that's pretty gross. I think I just broke that off. Maybe not, I don't know. It's pretty awesome. In any case, I'm gonna get some gloves on because it's really gross. There's even like a worm thing down there. It's disgusting. What the heck? I'm gonna get all these carbs out though. Hopefully we don't find anything living or dead, I guess. Let me go ahead and get that done. All right, so our first attempt to clean this thing up is gonna take a shop vac and about 14 extension cords to get all the way back here. I'm gonna try to suck out as much of this as I can, considering that it has the smaller hose on it. See how clean I can get it, and then see if I can see some bolts to get to so I can get that thing off. All right, so I have vacuumed out as much as I could get to out of the world's biggest rat nest. And actually these must have been kind of nice rats because I don't see anything chewed up. Like, usually there's wires gone and they didn't tear up the seat, it doesn't look like, from what I can tell yet. They didn't really tear anything up, they just kind of are guests of a new house. I'm not really sure, but anyhow, from what I can tell, I don't see any bolts. I think this thing pries off. It's gonna take two hands, and well, I don't wanna hold the camera while I'm doing that. So I'm gonna do that, let me see if I can get it off. All right, so no matter how much I yank on it, there's just not enough clearance to get that out with the steering bar here. So I think the carbs are gonna have to come with it, and to do that, at very least, I need to take out that screw, if you can see there. There's a screw there, and another one just back there. Those carbs should pull out, technically speaking, if they're not being held down by other wires and hoses. So let me see if I can get those off. All right, so I was right and I was wrong. They're not just gonna pull out. I'm looking at it a little bit further. Each one of the carbs has a fuel hose going to it. You can see the bigger one's going down right here. So I just gotta squeeze these hose clamps off. Unfortunately, that main clamp over there, to get the carb off, the screw's bent so it doesn't loosen up. So that's gonna be fun. Hopefully I'll have enough slack to pull out, but I'll go ahead and I'll pinch off these connectors, or these hose clamps right here, and I'll get these off, and I'll try to pull this thing out. Okay, well, I got the carbs out, and it's bad. It's really bad. Look at that. I mean, I don't know how long this thing sat, but gosh, look at the cylinders in there. It's bad. I mean, it doesn't get worse than that. Fortunately, I think I could probably clean these cylinders out. There's more rat nested in that one over there if you look. This downside is this is probably gonna need carbs, and they're probably a couple $100, and I don't know what these things are worth, but I don't think they're worth a whole lot running conditions. So we have to determine that in our video, or our progress, is if, you know, are we gonna actually fix this thing? Is it worth it? I don't want to give up on it, of course, but I don't want to spend a bunch of money on something that's not worth anything. So maybe you guys know better about these things, what their value is, and if this is an easy fix, if it's not, or if I should just walk away from it, comment below. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try to get some of this stuff cleaned out of here, and then see if I can soak these carbs in something to at least kind of free them up somehow. Okay, so to get these carbs off, I'm gonna have to take off everything with it. You can see there's a line here that goes down to the oil pump. That's gotta come off. I can't separate this because there's no play, so I'm gonna have to take off the whole throttle assembly. I just took out the choke assembly. It's all gonna have to come out together. And then what we'll do is we'll let these things soak after we clean them up a little bit. I think the next step for us though after that is going to be taking off the reed housings here, and hopefully after we clean those up, the cylinders aren't too scarred. I went ahead and I pulled all the plugs. I try to look down the holes. It's kind of tough to see. You can't see a whole lot. In fact, even if I turn the camera on, there's nothing. So I'm sorry, the lighting on. So all I can think of is, before we dive too deep into it, I need to know that the cylinders are okay. So we're gonna have to pull off those reed valves. So I need to go ahead again and pull this here, pull the oil pump line, pull everything off so I can get those off, and we'll inspect it from there. All right, guys, so I'm gonna start off by saying, yes, it was hassle getting the carbs out because the bolts that held on the oil pump, they were like just full of poop or something. I don't know, I couldn't get them off, so it was like that tedious quarter turn. Anyhow, I went ahead and pulled the 6 screws around the outer side of the valves, the reed valves, out, got the oil line off, and so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to separate this if it doesn't start pouring rain on us, and see how the cylinder looks. So there's the reed valve, and there is the cylinder. Actually, that's not bad. It's a little dust from falling off the inside from opening it and turning it over, but that's not bad at all. In fact, the crank looks really good. That's good news. I did, in the meantime, completely destroy the throttle assembly because I had no play inside the throttle housing, or with the throttle cable, so that's dead. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull the rest of these reed valves off. We need to clean those up anyhow. Unfortunately, they don't even look damaged, so I can probably just wash those out and those will be fine. I'm gonna pull those out, and then I'm gonna close this thing up, and we'll kind of see what we have to do next as far as getting this project on the road. All right, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and wash these things down here in this nasty pit. I wouldn't even bring these things in the wash tub in the shop because it's just nasty. So I don't have high hopes that I'm gonna be able to save these things. I mean, I don't think a lot of words need to be said to kind of show what I mean when I say that, but these are pretty bad. At least this stuff here is good. So at very least, what I will do is I will go ahead and clean these up, let those soak overnight. I think it's a mixture of automatic transmission fluid and 90% isopropyl alcohol. If I'm correct, I believe that's what the mixture is. If it doesn't break them free, then I'll have to probably contact our sources over at Jet Motorsports, our sponsor, to see if they have anything. I don't know if they do snowmobiles or not. If not, I'm gonna have to get on eBay and find something. So let me go ahead and try to get these things cleaned overnight. I'll be back the next day to show you how it turned out. All right, guys, so it's been a few hours. This stuff has been soaking in our little magical creation of whatever we've mixed up together to try to loosen it up, and apparently it's not working. I tried to budge the slide, and as I was trying to budge the slide, I really started looking at it, and look how badly corroded it is. It's almost eaten all the way through the slide. There's no way these things are going to free up. Even if they do, they're not really repairable, and if they were repairable, it would cost more to repair them than it would just replacing them. So I went ahead and reached out to our sponsor, Jet Motorsports, and they did not have a set of carbs. However, they were able to locate one. So I guess the heck with these. We're not going to really worry about those. We have some spare parts should we need them for inside the carbs, because the bottoms actually looked pretty clean. So we're going to go ahead and move forward and work on the brakes. As of right now, the brakes, they're still kind of locked up. Like it's moving, but it's not. So we need to determine if that's the caliper or if that's actually the lever itself. I'm thinking it might be just the lever, but it very well could be both. We need to figure out what the problems are and what we need to order. Because again, we don't want to put too much money in this, but I want to get it started. So I'm going to see if I can reach out to Jet Motorsports again and see if they have the parts for the brake as well, or if they can locate them. And if they do, we'll have it all together and we will move forward and get this thing taken care of. All right, guys, so I don't know that I necessarily understand these brakes. It looks, if I'm correct, like the brakes are liquid cooled, because I'm pretty sure that's a coolant line right there. It's going to the top of the motor, to the rail, to cool the heads, to the caliper, and then down through. That's what it looks like it is. It's kind of strange. I don't necessarily know that I understand it, but I think what we have to do if you're looking at this is we need to take off the reservoir right here that's in our way. To get these up, I got two 15mm bolts here that I gotta get out. I don't know if I can get those out without taking this off, so I think we have to take this off. But when I'm looking at it though, and I'm kind of rocking the rotor on the other side, it looks like it's moving, so I'm pretty confident the problem's up here. But I am gonna take it off just because I want to now. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so moving forward, it makes no sense. It would seem to be able to get the brake off, you had to take off the reservoir, the coolant reservoir, but to get the coolant reservoir out, you'd have to take out the oil reservoir. To get the oil reservoir out, you'd have to take out the whole steering column. There's got to be a better way. So I just went ahead and disconnected the 4 Allen bolts that held in the top of our coolant brake. Pulled the coolant tube out of the way, obviously this one as well, and then took 2 15mm bolts out that are holding the caliper in. And as I sit here and pour antifreeze everywhere, it seems like it's loosening up a bit. I don't know if I can just pry that out now. I'm gonna try to. It looks like it should come straight up. I'm gonna try to take it out. We'll see what happens. All right, so if you guys can see down in here, you can kind of see, if you know what I'm looking at here, the piston, which if the camera will focus here, is down in there. So I'm trying to move it back, see if I can work it out. It does seem pretty stiff. It's not really wanting to move, which unfortunately is not letting this necessarily come out that easy either. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I'm gonna go ahead and work on that and pry on that for a minute and see if I can get it loose. Okay, actually, I think I was maybe looking at this thing wrong. I think that this whole unit is one piece. It comes out together, maybe, including this part here. As I started wiggling it, I started realizing the whole thing started sliding out. You can kind of see that thing move up. I do notice there's a line connected to it back there, though, or being touched by it. So I'm gonna try to take this whole thing out. If we can get this thing out, we'll be in good shape. It probably won't be lucky enough to do that, but I'm gonna go ahead and try. All right, guys, so after doing a little bit more research and trying to use some common sense, I realized that I can get this thing up quite a ways. But again, it's not gonna come out with this stupid reservoir here. But then I started thinking about it. I don't know that this caliper is locked up. And I'm trying to figure out, why won't this thing spin? I start putting 2 and 2 together here. It looks like it's connected to something else down there. And then I realized that there's a dipstick. And then I had an aha moment, or a you're an idiot moment. I started looking and thinking, well, that's to the transmission, basically. The direct drive shaft is connecting to that pulley system over there, spinning, coming over here down, connecting the tracks. So as long as these tracks are on the ground, that thing's not going to turn. So it's kind of my own stupidity there, but it does confirm that we know that this thing is our problem. So we have to order one of those. Is the brake rotor, or I'm sorry, the caliper itself bad? I'm going to keep trying to move it out. If I can't get this thing out, I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, so jumping around a bit, we're going to move up here to the lever. I'm going to go ahead and take out these 2 Allen bolts here, and then the 16mm, I believe, head here. We're going to spin it out, because I know this is bad. We have to get that out anyways. Then we'll see if we can free up the piston itself, because right now it's kind of being squeezed. It doesn't know any better. So if I can get the back pressure off from back here, we might know a little bit better if that caliper is good or not. So here's our lever. We can freely move it. It's stuck, you can hear it. So that's obviously no good, so we can toss that. We're gonna go ahead now, and we're gonna go ahead and press on that caliper again. We're gonna see if any fluid, assuming it's full of fluid, comes out. So get down in here, pull on it. Oh, yep, it unlocked. So that was the problem. Now it could still be potentially partially locked down there, but as long as we get it moving back and forth and we get a good lever, it'll probably free itself up. For the most part, there's usually a rubber boat within the basically between the caliper itself and the piston itself, so it usually doesn't get too much moisture in there to lock it up, but we're probably good there. I won't finish taking that off. I think it's probably okay. I'm gonna go ahead and order one of those. All right, so I was able to get the brake caliper off. All I had to do was basically take out the bolt for the oil cooler. I was able to pull that out of underneath this bracket right here and nudge up this coolant reservoir just enough so I could pry this whole thing out. And then obviously it was attached to the brake line, so I went ahead and disconnected that. We're gonna pull this all apart and let it soak overnight. I'm sure it'll be fine. Like I said, I was able to push that piston in, so we're probably good there. But just as good measure, we're gonna go ahead and let that thing soak in some penetrant, and then we'll move forward. All right, so I was able to get the caliper out, guys. What I ended up having to do was take the bolt out of the back of the oil reservoir there and lift the reservoir up out of behind this here, and it allowed me to push the coolant reservoir up just enough to wiggle this whole thing out. Then of course it was attached to the brake line, so I went ahead and used 11mm, which is probably also like a 7/16 or something, and got that out. Now again, we know that the piston is moving, so that said, we know it's not bad, but it might need a little bit more help being freed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill this thing up full of penetrant and let it sit overnight while we order our parts. Alright guys, so I was actually able to repair both the brake lever and the caliper by hand. I was initially just going to drop them in some penetrating fluid and walk away from it. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, it's probably not going to work. So I went ahead and was able to repair them. And what I did was I got the reservoir lid off. One of the bolts did break. I mean, it happens, not a big deal. I'll put some heat on it. We'll get that thing out and replace it. But I also need to clean it as well with some brake parts cleaner. But I'm going to get that right now. Anyways, I was able to get out the lower O-ring out of there. It actually has a washer inside there. Got that out so that won't get ruined by the cleaner, and was able to get it to the point where it can now, you'll see it springs back by itself. Everything works really well. It just needs to be cleaned up now. So that part is good to go. Relatively simple. As far as the caliper, that was a little bit more difficult. All I did was slide it off its bracket like it's supposed to be. Then I pushed it all the way into where the basically the teeth were way back here, and I was able to take a pry bar like so, and I was able to get between those teeth, and I just kept turning it and turning it and turning it and adding penetrant fluid into this hole here and turning it, and then I was able to push it all the way in, and I went ahead and used an air hose and blew air in here, and it popped right out. So you'll kind of see as I take this thing out right here, this is the way these systems work. Here is your piston. You got to make sure that that surface is nice and clean, and it is. No problems with it. And if you look down here, you'll see our O-ring. So it's still got quite a bit of life on it. You can feel how much more lip it has and sits like up and out past the aluminum itself. So we know that it's still good. We got to get that all cleaned out there. We'll lube it up and we'll slide this thing back in, and it's ready to go. So fortunately, we saved a little money there. That would have probably cost me like, I don't know, who knows, $100 for those parts. So it's $100 saved. Anyhow, let's go ahead and move forward. One thing I want to check, I want to make sure that we got spark, because if we don't have spark, to me that's kind of like 3 strikes, you're out. I mean, the brakes, the intake system, the carbs, I mean, just, it's a little bit too much. So I want to make sure we got spark. I'm going to test that by using a typical spark plug tester here. We're just going to simply put one of the plugs in the hole, put this on that, and the spark plug cap to this right here, and thing should light up. Alright guys, so it's been cloudy here all day, and all of a sudden the sun wanted to come out when I needed a little bit of shade just to be able to see the light in here. I was trying to hold the hood over top of it to kind of shade it while I was pull starting it. It wasn't really working. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm just going to say, you know what, we're going to assume that the ignition system is good. I did notice a little bit of chewing right here. These wires here are chewed up, but those wires simply go to the headlight control switch and the heated handlebars, so I don't think that's a problem. The actual CDI here looks to be good, and the coils all look to be good there, so I'm going to assume the ignition is good. So at this point, all we can really do is order the parts that we need, so I'm going to call the video at this point. If you guys know anything about these things, definitely comment below, because I don't have a clue what I'm doing, as you can probably tell, and the guys that probably do know about this are probably laughing, saying he's doing everything wrong. You know what, that's okay, that's how you learn. That's how I'm helping to teach you guys as well. We're doing this together. So if you guys haven't already, definitely hit that like button and comment below, again, with any questions, any concerns, or any knowledge that you might have. I'll see you in the next one.